Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Outsider Season 1, Episode 4. It's called Viene, Coco. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. And I Google translated that because I was curious, and it was just Coco is coming. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. Coconut is coming. That was the funny part, is that it translated as coconut.
Okay.
But El Coco is mentioned in the episode, though, so we have context.
Yeah, I was
here
going to
for
say, I
this.
was like, I get, I don't understand the exact translation, but I get the gist of, okay, what it's referencing.
Yeah. So we definitely focused a lot more on Holly this episode and her investigation. We weren't with Ralph quite as much. Got a couple of key moments, but definitely veered more with Holly.
Yeah, and I have to say, this might be my least favorite episode.
Okay. Yeah.
It feels very straightforward. Just, oh look, here's the investigation stuff. It wasn't anything. Yeah, it didn't really do anything particularly interesting or lean into any of the weird stuff in the way that the teasing of the mystery had been in the first few.
It's probably my least favorite as well. Although I don't know if my complaint is quite the same. It's if anything, like I wanted it to be more of, because to me it was more of a straight investigation before, and there was the mystery element. Whereas this episode, it kind of almost went more like traditional horror movie with how it started to reveal its information. In particular, there's a scene towards the end, which is actually a trope that I hate in horror movies, where we meet a character who just knows a lot about the thing that's happening and just explains and just gives an exposition dump and explains it. I'm like, we didn't need to have a name for it. We didn't need to have some, character explain the legend of this thing. That it's a devil. It's not the devil, but it's a devil, and as all these things. And don't get me wrong, Holly looking up on the laptop and looking into all these various monsters, and I laughed a little bit because Black Annis was one of them because it made me think of Doom Patrol, but. And it gets to the hooded figure, and it's like, oh, this is maybe the one that we're talking about now. This is the one that's attacking people, and that said, there was some stuff in this episode that I really liked. I liked the revelation that this other murder that happened in the state, from the nurse, that his family and also the family of the victim were all completely like dying off in various ways, because it went back to because we were cracking jokes about the Ginger family being really depressed and like how all of them died, and it was almost darkly funny just how ridiculous like it was that each one was dying one by one. And this made it interesting because it went no. This isn't just like, I mean, you can kind of argue that it would work as just the knock on effect of the grief throughout the family, but this clearly defines it as no. This thing, whatever it's doing, is also actually spreading almost like a depression amongst everyone.
It's part of the effect that it has. Yeah, it's a direct cause rather than just a reaction to the events.
And it explains why it was watching as the dad hanged himself, back in like episode 2 or whatever, or 3, and because it specifically says it feeds on the just basically the effect afterwards. It feeds on everything, and feeds on the misery. So, I like that part of it. I like that element of it, and I like the natural progression of, well, once Holly kind of like realizes this and realizes the nurse came into contact with Terry and tells Ralph this, there's then the thing, well, and I do like also just like two elements of this. I like that, okay, it leads to the idea of, okay, well, was it somewhere else before him? So let's trace it back to a previous person. So we have a third example now in New York. I like that idea. I also like there's the part there, they think it's an infection that's going from person to person, and that's not actually true. It's actually, there's a doppelganger who is, doppelganging each person, and that's what's so I like that it lines up with their investigation. It makes sense that they can follow it back even though they have the wrong idea of what's actually happening. They're treating it like, oh, murder's like a disease almost in this case that maybe is infecting people. They don't really believe that yet, but that's what it's kind of appearing to be to them. Whereas we know, no, it's just that this thing is jumping from victim to victim, and this is how it's going.
And it makes some interesting choices, not in the people that it picks so much, but more that it insists on waiting till the person is out of town till they make their move, which is strange because I think in the sense that, okay, that makes it easier to verify they were somewhere else in a lot of scenarios, right? As the whole point of this investigation, we can show that they're somewhere else, so that it makes it weird and draws attention to it. And also, I mean, how often do people how often do some people leave town? Like, okay, it gets them when they visited to that town, so that's how it's moving, like state to state. But okay, someone visited somewhere, in February, they might not leave again. They might not go on holiday that year, or whatever, for whatever reason, they might not travel any serious length of time the rest of the year. So it feels like a gamble.
Yeah. If anything, the weird part about that is not so much like, because it's there for us for the mystery part, but like from this thing's perspective, from the doppelganger's perspective, if anything, it's making the ironclad, like, sort of like they're going to get this person for the murder that you just committed shakier, because there's proof that they were also somewhere else.
Exactly.
Unless that's also something that feeds into the misery, the idea that, oh, like they can't quite explain this, and it leads to all these. Like,
that's possible, and there's also the question is it? I just said, how often do some people necessarily leave town? Is it kind of in some way making them? Because we know it has some sort of control over the other cop in some way. Can it exert some sort of will in that regard?
And it's worth mentioning this whole waiting for them to go again. Terry got the scratch, and then the murders happened while he was still there. It's like this thing went back to.
You sure?
Well, no, that's not right. No, but like,
because he got the scratch when he visited his dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Back and he was home for X amount of time.
He was at a conference. Yes, he was at a conference.
Yeah.
No, I remember. I don't know what I was thinking about.
I can't help you, but I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so like, it's. I guess it just depends. But I like the progression. And I like the added element of, okay, this thing's feeding off the misery it's causing people afterwards, and that's why A hangs around to sort of see everything. And
yeah,
and I also so I dig that. I hated the scene towards the end though, where we have this person who overhears the prison conversation when Holly's talking to the New York victim.
So convenient, isn't it?
Yeah. Because we have the New York victim, who's this woman who was at the hotel where the nurse had been when he was in New York, and she was also convicted of killing a child, and she claims she didn't do it, blah 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 blah. And Holly, is like, yeah, no, I believe you're innocent because I believe these people are also innocent, and there's something going on here. And they've not quite gotten to doppelganger yet, although presumably, now researching specific myths that she's doing at the end of the episode will lead perhaps to more of an understanding, or at least an educated guess in that realm.
Yeah.
And then the other big thing that happens is that the kid who was still in the vehicles comes in to talk again to Ralph and that, because he was too scared to talk about this mysterious figure before, so he kind of draws what he thought he saw, and it's the guy in the hood with the weird face. And I have to wonder if Ralph looks at this and goes, that kind of sounds like what the little girl, Terry's daughter, described.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get any follow-up on this, because he just shows it to the other guys, or to the camera, whatever he does. He holds it up, and he puts it to one side, and that's kind of it then. That's it for that side of the story for the episode, I think.
Yeah, that was the last time I see him.
Yeah, and that was a little disappointing to me. I want to know his reaction. Like, there's maybe a hint there that you could maybe read into of, oh, did he recognize it? Is he thinking that? But there's not enough, and I feel like that was what the thing was building to. That was the interesting thing it should have been at the end, and we didn't actually get to it.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, because this episode was clearly more about the Holly side of the investigation. I do wonder if we switch back to it being more weighed towards him next episode, and it really is him struggling with the idea of like the weird elements here, where there's this guy with a face that's melted. Like, does he go to Glory and say, "Hey, I need to speak to your daughter again, and that thing she saw might actually not have been a dream. That might have been real. Like, we actually have a corresponding description now of something that matches what she saw," and that is kind of disturbing. He also investigates the idea that the footage of Terry and then in the strip club, and what was going on there, and the idea that he might have tried to crash Paddy Constantine in the club, and maybe he did try to and failed. But then again, we cast Paddy Constantine in this role, so maybe he is infected or he's doppelganged, and we're going to.
I'm inclined to say he did, but I mean, it's hard to say for sure.
I wonder if there's like factors that make people immune from it.
Maybe all the alcohol that he obviously consumes.
Yeah. Or is it the opposite? Didn't he say in the first episode or the second episode when he was interviewed that he was sober for ever long?
You could be right. I can't remember, to be fair.
I feel like that was kind of the ironic touch that he runs a strip club with all the booze, but he doesn't. He himself has been sober.
You could be right. Yeah.
I wonder if that's maybe something to do with it. Maybe like because we know Jack definitely drinks. The cop that's been infected right now, like he's definitely a complete drunk. So like. And not that Terry came across as an alcoholic or anything like that, but I mean, presumably he drank a normal amount. Like,
yeah, it's likely.
Yeah,
I don't recall that they didn't make a point of saying he didn't. Not that I remember, anyway.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, yeah, I could see them maybe having something to do with that, or maybe it's something else he used to take. Because if it wasn't just booze that he was on, like maybe it's something else that his body's just not applicable.
Yeah. Maybe some people are just naturally immune. Because they describe it at one point as a virus. Like it's spreading like a virus. It's being transmitted like that, and there are some people who are just immune to viruses, of certain viruses.
Yeah, although when they say that, that's just them stabbing in the dark. They don't.
No, they are absolutely, but I am wondering if maybe there is just a thematic link there to kind of tie that in.
Yeah, maybe. So so he's looking at that footage. He's trying to sort of mull that over. Just to go back to Holly though, we see like again this misery that follows them. We see like the father and the uncle of this woman who's convicted be killed by the father of the victim, of the child that she supposedly killed. And again, it's very reminiscent of what happened with Terry and the son tried to come and kill him. And
I think also it makes you worried for Glory and the kids, in the sense that we saw the guy who killed himself in prison, his brother OD'd not long after. And you're like, okay, so it's affecting not just the family of the victim, but the family of the killer as well. Because this here lines up with that.
Because then the mother of the nurse then kills herself in a car. She drives out and just because we cut to her a few times, but she's just sort of sitting there as we find out more details that not only has her son been convicted of these murders and then killed himself in prison, her other son is OD'd. So she then goes out and kills herself, and it was that point. I think that's the point in the episode. I'm like, okay, so the family that from Terry's supposed victim aren't an isolated thing. This is clearly like a thing that spreads amongst the people after these events happen every time.
Yeah. So I think, and like, while we already know what happened to the family of the victim in this scenario with Terry, we have Glory and the kids, and you're like, okay, are they in danger as well now?
I think they're in danger. I think maybe the question becomes like, are the people around them who just won't leave them alone, who will kind of protect them from it because they won't let them be alone in their misery and they won't let them, suffer these other things. That's certainly the hope, I suppose. And that's kind of the other subplot of the episode is we see her in two prominent scenes. One at a restaurant with the Howard the lawyer, and people around the restaurant are kind of commenting about her, and one guy in particular kind of gives her some proper mouthing off, and Howard gets up to sort of square up to the guy, and when the guy does act out, luckily Ralph's also there having dinner with his wife, kind of watching from afar, and goes up and sort of breaks it up. But it's kind of showing just how ostracized she is right now. And then the other big scene, of course, is when she's interviewing like a home tutor for the kids, and sort of notices a little problem with all these references she's got. Like, they're all from these different states, and yet all the postage all seems to come from the same place. It's very odd. And it's like, okay, so you're a reporter just wanting to get the scoop on on my family, and she gives because she says she's done math and whatever, so she gives a little math problem to solve, and the woman's just kind of like, okay, confession time.
And she just throws the bag out and it's like, right, off you go.
Yeah, and we see the recorder that was recording the conversation.
Admittedly, it didn't sound like she got anything in that conversation that could come back to haunt it later.
No, I think this was just about showing like how everyone was had their eyes and ears on her. It's like, hey, like all times, like she has to be on guard.
Like I was thinking about, okay, was there anything said that could come back, given the kind of the crux of this whole show being that, okay, there's security cameras and verifying things and information coming back.
I think what I like about this element of it is that if we're going this idea that her and the kids are in danger, her and the kids are potentially going to fall victim to this grief, this misery that spreads, is that because Ralph lost a child and feels the guilt and the anger over that. It does two things here. One, it gives him other kids to try and protect, maybe in like, you know, because he couldn't save his kid, because his kid, it was cancer. It was something he could do nothing about. But this is something that he can fight against. It's something that he can you know, not that he should feel guilty about it, because it was cancer. Like there's nothing he can feel guilty about.
But it's
but he does. Guilt. Yeah. But he, you know, something, so it's kids that he can save, right, for his own sort of soul's redemption, if you will. But then on top of that, you have the added kind of element of like him getting over his own anger, his own misery. Because, you know, if we're talking about misery spreading to these families and how it's tearing them all apart, he's an example of someone, him and his wife were on the brink of being torn apart and seemingly didn't. You know, he had, you know, we saw in the last episode, you know, that flashback in the therapist's office that he was getting into fights. He was, you know, he was a mess. And this idea that if he can like save this family from going through that grief and, you know, reaching that breaking point, and maybe that's a sign to us that he is qualified to actually handle this. That even though he did get to a really dark place, he came back. He came through it, at least from what we've seen. And maybe there's still like a hurdle for him to get through, but this will represent that final hurdle, is that he can get through this with the other family and help them. So I like some of the character stuff that does for him.
Me too.
So that's pretty solid. So there's a lot of good stuff in the episode, even if it
just feels a bit mundane when you're watching it, I think, in comparison to the
some
previous
of it.
ones.
Because obviously the security guard, the ex-cop that Holly met last episode, did come back and ended up being a source of information in the local police for her, because he still had contacts, and he kind of like asked her out on a date, and she's kind of awkward about it, and it's kind of nice at the date but also awkward at the same time, and you think she's kind of like being cold with him but then kisses him, and it's kind of just playing into kind of her personality and how she talks to people. It's hard for him to kind of read her essentially. But he's impressed that she can guess the height of any building that she's looking at but has no idea her own height.
I think this is going to come back to this self-awareness issue. That's she's so good at spotting all this information, but it's something personal to her. She has this complete blind spot. Yeah, and I feel like that's probably going to be a big crux in the investigation going forward, that she misses something obvious because it's more personal.
And maybe even something that's a danger to her at some point. Like, I can see her being very useful for a while, but then maybe towards the end of the season. In fact, you know, I keep seeing season 1 at the start. So I think it's technically a limited series. I don't think I need to see season 1. Just I was thinking about it there. But like, I could see at the end of the season, like, her being in a situation where she doesn't realize that that someone dangerous is close to her. Like, she can spot it from a mile away, but never when it's in her own vicinity, and that's going to, you know, put her in harm's way. And I think Holly's a very vulnerable character, even though she's very strong in a lot of ways. I mean, hell, she gets pepper sprayed by the nurse in this episode, and shows that even though she's good at what she does, she's also really, you know, dumb in other ways. Where so and it's a fun moment, and the nurse does help her when she realizes she's not a reporter, and she's like, okay, I can offer you this information. That leads to these other factors, and I kind of like that some of the information that they're getting, we've already kind of put 2 and 2 together because we know it's a supernatural doppelganger of some kind. So you're kind of like, so it has this nice mix of some of the information being completely new to us as well, so it's not boring to watch the actual gathering of the evidence, but at the same time it has that feeling of, oh, but come on, get this bit that we've already got, come on, figure that part out.
You're a little bit impatient, aren't you?
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. I actually think it works in its favor in some respects. Okay. I think there's a balance there that it's for the most part getting right. I think maybe where it falls down a little bit in this episode is that it is mostly just about talking to people, without actual hard details that are kind of contradicting each other.
A little frustrating, yeah.
I think honestly, it might just be a balance thing. I think it might have been, if it was more equally balanced between Holly's plot and the others, it might actually not feel this way.
No, it might not. I think that's because Holly did the same thing like 3 or 4 times, right? Ultimately, it was, okay, go talk to a person, follow the lead, you know, rinse and repeat. And while they make sense, I understand, okay, they all serve a purpose. By the time you get towards the end of it, okay, it feels a bit repetitive. Okay, you know, you want more of the other stuff in between. And maybe it's a case of these need to have been spread out over multiple episodes, or maybe you didn't need all of them.
But maybe that wouldn't make that much sense. And, like, you know, in terms of what's coming next in the plot, like, maybe they all have to be done now because what comes next needs them.
Honestly, the easiest thing to do is kind of do what we did at the start. Is, you know, when she phones Ralph, it's like, hey, here's some information. do that at this point in the episode. So do one of the interview scenes at the start so we understand, okay, this is what she does. So we go through and then cut ahead, do some stuff with Ralph and go, hey, have a go. Here's some more information. I followed up on some of these leads and then just jump straight to like the fourth one.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's important for her to talk to the new one, the one in New York, because like that's such an extra layer to it. The scene where the woman like invites her for tea and tells her about all this stuff that she knows about, like I would cut that. I don't know how. I mean, you have to get her searching for the myths, but you can do it in a better way than this.
What's frustrating though is that she brought up the myth of the doppelganger last episode, so it's already in her mind, right?
Yeah, but the myth's not of a doppelganger. The myth's more specific than that.
No, it is. But the idea of she's already on that trail of, well, maybe this is something weirder, right? This isn't like a complete out of nowhere concept for her. So I feel like there would have been a more subtle way for her to just go, you know what, something's not adding up, and kind of make that leap on her own rather than just have exposition done.
Yeah, because this was the thing. I almost didn't, because in this scene actually at the end, as much as I was saying I really like the misery follows people and it's clearly a thing that happens and this thing feeds on, I liked it a little bit less when she actually explained it, because I'd already figured it out by this point. By the time we saw it happening to another family and another kid victim's family as well at the same time, we saw those two sort of branches of it happening for the nurse case. I got it. I got that this happens every time. So to have the woman at the end explain it all and actually say it out loud, I'm like, okay, I already got this. You're making it feel less special now.
Yeah.
It was more interesting when I was figuring it out on my own.
It's show don't tell, which they did show, and then they told as well.
Yes, so I could have done with it just kind of like appreciating my own intelligence a little bit by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it showed us first so that I had the satisfaction of figuring it out as it was presented it to me. It's only just a little bit annoying that they had to explain it anyway at the end, but...
Yeah, and that satisfaction is one of the key driving roots of any sort of mystery show or film is trying to kind of put the pieces together yourself before it gives you the answer. That's that's part of that for everyone, I think, when they watch these type of things. And this here, you're putting together, okay, it's a supernatural piece of the puzzle. This is where that fits in.
Because I think
it's still apart.
Because I think you still get the effect of because for anyone in the audience who's not figured or not realized what we were just talking about, I think for them you still give them a scene where maybe Holly is talking to Ralph on the phone and says, what if this, what if whatever this is feeds on us? I mean, what if she just speculates what we've already been thinking? Because that still explains it to anyone who's not figured it out without it feeling as clunky. If anything, it's more satisfying to us who figured it out because it means Holly's thinking the same thing as we are and it makes us feel related to her. So
whereas in this case, we're ahead of her because she's just having it told to her and we're like, yeah, we already got there.
Yeah, but it also gives us this character who just knows all these things. And it's one of my least favourite tropes about horror movies, so I hated this scene. With a passion. It's the scene that I see in every supernatural horror movie where they find an expert, or it's either an expert they've found on the internet, or it's the one older person who's got a mystical family past who can tell us about things.
It bothers me less when they actively seek out an expert, because they've got an inkling that something's going on. Let's go and find someone who can maybe give us more details.
I still hate it.
I get why, but it bothers me less because at least I can understand the character motivation to do that.
Well, to be fair though, it's either almost always that, or the mysterious person is actively seeking out victims who need this information, right?
That's the one I hate.
I think they're equally as annoying. What makes this one different is that it's just that she overhears it in prison. She's visiting someone else and she overhears it and goes, "Oh, I've got some information that may be useful to you."
Yeah, no, this is particularly glaring. Like the one where it's them seeking out the victim and it's like, "Hey, you need this information." That annoys me a little bit because. Whereas when they're seeking out the expert, this is the characters I'm already following. This is their thought process. This is them looking for answers. So it works for me on a level that, okay, I'm following that character.
As far as I'm concerned, that's 7 and half a dozen.
Sure.
Right? Like it's almost the same.
Yeah, they're very similar. I'm acknowledging that.
Yeah, it bugs me. Luckily, the rest of the episode I like for the most part, even if the pacing was maybe not as enjoyable as the previous ones. And I'm intrigued to see where it goes. We should also mention Jack. He's got kind of a subplot throughout the episode where we don't really see what he's doing, or we see what he's doing, but we don't understand what he's doing. Like, for all it seems, there's this use of like either shallow depth of field where he's out of focus for a lot of it, or it'll do a lot of like very just sort of like quiet things where he's doing something, and it plays very kind of creepily. Like, we don't really understand it. And we see him shoot a deer. We see him drag the deer into a specific spot in the woods. We also see him go and buy like a bunch of appliances. We see him buy like lamps of various kinds. He's not even looking at it. He just like picks up stuff off the shelf, and
it's unusual.
And various other things at the hardware and home store, Home Depot, whatever it is. And then when we see what he does with them, he just dumps it all next to the deer. It's almost like he's making a nest out of appliances. It's kind of weird. Like,
yeah, I'm wondering if there's some like electricity that's the key here with whatever's going on.
But it was only some of it was electrical. A lot of it was just like blankets and shit like that. It wasn't.
Yeah, that's true.
It was just random household items. Some were appliances, some were just fabric, some were whatever, some were tools, some were. And
it feels like the sort of thing that is like ready made for. Let's get DNA all over them so that when they show up later, this person's got them all. I don't know. But it doesn't really tie in with the deer.
Yeah, like I don't like
no.
Unless he wants to build a backstory for Jack that he's been doing all this shit. But like, it's worth mentioning this still, as far as we can tell, is the real Jack. He's just kind of infected with something, as opposed to being doppelganged like the other characters have been.
Yeah, and we know like at the end of last episode he was like, "Fine, I'll do what you want." So this is under orders from the doppelganger.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure though that he's always aware of that though, as he's doing all this stuff in this episode.
No. I think he's always doing it, but I don't like I say he's not always necessarily aware. So when he's doing this stuff, it's when I say it's under orders, but he's maybe just not really even aware of what he's doing. He's kind of just on autopilot mode.
Yeah,
when he's just picking up stuff off the shelves.
Yeah, and the cop who just had a baby comes in, talks to him, says, "Oh, we're having a baby party. Come around and blah blah blah." He's
completely out of it. Like he's been staring at this blank form for like an hour.
Yeah, so he's losing time. He's just kind of staring at space. So. Yeah, not a whole lot to say. I mean, only thing I could think of is it's some sort of weird nest. Maybe this thing is at hibernation every once in a while, and
maybe
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know what this was.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I kind of like that I can't even begin to predict what he's doing with it. Unless it is just he's building a backstory to make Jack like a complete nutcase. Like he's got all this stuff.
Which case, mission accomplished.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it'll work. I mean, if that's the purpose of this, it'll work. But I don't know. I feel like it feels like there's a specific purpose as he's doing it, though. I just don't understand yet.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it something to do with how he transforms into the next person? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. This is very elaborate.
It does. It does seem very elaborate. But he's in this like in between state right now, and how long can he stay in that in between state?
But here's the thing though, the deer shooting thing was something that was part of Jack's personality, because when we first met Jack, he was trying to like hunt deer. So yeah, this is part of who he is anyway. And then all the other stuff, I can't imagine it is like. And if it was all his stuff from his house, I would say, maybe it is to do with transforming. It's like he creates almost like a concoction of all of Jack's like personality and things, but it's not his things. It's new stuff from the store. So
no, you're right. I was just spitballing. I don't know.
So that's weird, but hey, that's what it is. But that's episode 4 anyway. So we'll be back next week with episode 5. We'll see how it shapes out. Let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month. It keeps all the content coming. You get some bonuses for your troubles, and you can see what's on offer. You can also support us, of course, by rating the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way, or share us on the social medias, all that sort of stuff. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?